Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to follow the honourable member for Cambridge. My interest in this area stems from a very minor accident my wife and I had, I think it was on the M5 a few years ago, when we had a minor collision. And for a year after that, I was phoned on my mobile on an almost weekly basis by a claims management company trying to get me to submit a fraudulent personal injury claim. And no matter how often I told them that I had no neck injury, my wife had no neck injury, our children had no neck injury, they persisted in trying to incite me to manufacture or claim that I had such an injury with the purpose in mind of making a fraudulent claim. They said you can get £3,000 just so your neck hurts. And even as recently as the last 2 weeks, my wife and I have both had separately automated phone calls, robo-phone calls from claims management companies asking us to phone back if we think we've ever been involved in an accident. Now, that experience prompted me to look further at this, and colleagues have quoted some of the figures. The honourable member for Jarrow asked, where is the evidence that there is a problem with widespread fraudulent claims? Now, I've got my own anecdotal experience of being personally incited to commit fraud, which obviously I didn't do. But the figures are very compelling. At a time when road traffic accidents in the last decade have fallen by 30%, 31%, how is it that personal injury claims have increased by 50%? And the answer, of course, is that these claims management companies are farming claims and inciting people to commit fraud, as they did with me. Now, the honourable member for Jarrow, just let me finish the point, I will take an intervention. The honourable member for Jarrow also asked...
You never give way.
I'll give way in a moment. The honourable gentleman from Jarrow also said that judges have decided that injuries...
He never gives way.
Injuries have been... Thanks for the heckling from my inside there. The honourable member for Jarrow said that judges had made these compensation awards, but of course that isn't true, because under qualified one-way cost shifting, insurance companies have a massive financial incentive to settle even claims without merit before they go to court, because even if they win, they pay the costs, and therefore... And the costs are often much bigger than the value of the claim. So insurance companies simply settle the claim without a medical examination, without it ever going to court. So all of these compensation claims have not been adjudicated by a judge, as the honourable member for Jarrow erroneously suggested. They're simply settled immediately because it's the cheapest way of doing it. There is no judicial intervention in almost any of these cases. Now, the honourable member for Canterbury wanted to make an intervention. If I can get her attention, which I would happily take.
High Peak.
High Peak.
Honourable Member for High Peak. Thank you. My intervention was a question to you to ask how you think the claims management company got hold of your details to be able to phone you and your wife about the accident that you had had. Is it not that their details are being passed on by insurance companies who then complain about the very claims management companies, because that is the only place that they could have got your personal details and the accident from, and that is what we should be cutting down on.
Can I just reiterate the use of the word "you" should be addressed through the chair, because my personal details haven't been passed on to anybody. Chris Philp.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, the honourable member for High Peak may well be correct in her assumption about where the details came from. Of course, there was a ban on referral fees passed a few years ago, but some insurance companies have sought to circumvent that ban by using what they euphemistically term alternative business structures. And this is where the insurance company effectively owns an equity stake in a claims management company or a claimant law firm, and they extract value that way. And I would say to the Minister, who I know is very attentive to these matters, I think we should also look at widening the ban on referral fees to include a ban on so-called alternative business structures. So we should ban insurance companies from having an equity stake or any other financial interest in claims management companies or in claimant law firms to make our existing ban on referral fees a little bit more robust. So just to make the point, not everyone on this side of the House is simply batting for insurance companies. In terms of public opinion, 58% of the public believe that personal injury lawyers and claims management companies are responsible for creating a compensation culture. Two-thirds of the public believe that a compensation culture exists. And my honourable friend who spoke recently pointed out the cost of this to individual motorists. The cost of this is being borne by our constituents, many of whom struggle to make ends meet. And when 47% of the value of claims is consumed by costs and legal fees, quite clearly this system is not functioning properly. Now, I very much welcome the measures in this bill, particularly the ban on pre-medical examination offers. I was delighted by the Secretary of State's confirmation earlier that these examinations will be face-to-face examinations. I think that is an extremely important clarification. I notice in the bill that, as far as I can read it, the only sanction against companies making pre-med offers contrary to this bill looks like it'll be a fine levied by the FCA. Well, I just say to the Minister, I hope the fines will be substantial for any company making a pre-med offer. In relation to the tariff schedule, I think it is simple, I think it's clear. It is around about the same level as the level of awards made under the current judicial system, so it's not being substantially discounted. But it is simple, it's transparent, it requires less intervention by the judiciary and by the justice system, thereby reducing the cost. And many European countries, including France, have a similar tariff system. So I welcome the simplification and I welcome the associated reduction in costs. As far as the personal injury discount rate is concerned, I think these reforms are long overdue and I welcome them. If members are concerned about them, I would just mention that periodic payment orders are available to pretty much every claimant if they feel they'd be better served, and of course they guarantee that every penny due gets paid over. And in fact, I would suggest that periodic payment orders are a better mechanism in general to avoid the risk that somebody has paid a large amount of money on day one and maybe they're given bad financial advice, or perhaps they spend the money on something other than their own care. So I would suggest that the government may want to consider making periodic payment orders the default option, and only if a judge decides there's a good reason not to have a periodic payment order, a lump sum award is made instead, because PPOs, I think, provide good protection, better protection for the claimant. There are one or two very important measures not in this bill but that are associated. I do support strongly the increase in the small claims track limit to £5,000 for road traffic accident personal injury claims. Of course, for most compensation claims, the limit is £10,000. So one might ask the question, why in almost every other sphere there's a £10,000 limit, but for this it's only £5,000? So I think the government has already made a significant concession by setting this limit at £5,000 rather than £10,000 as it is for everything else. I also understand there may be legislation coming imminently from DCMS to introduce a general ban on cold calling in this area. If that is true, it is long overdue, very welcome, and I think claims management companies should not be making these calls at all, and they should be completely prohibited. I've commented on alternative business structures already. I think, Madam Deputy Speaker, I've had personal experience of this. The public are being incited to commit fraud on an industrial scale. There is no reason why the level of claims in the United Kingdom should be so much higher than in other European countries. These are welcome measures, and the sooner they hit the statute books, Madam Deputy Speaker, the better.